everybody. Looks like it's time to start. Welcome, welcome, all of you. I can't believe the crowd. The numbers are great for the middle of summer, that's for sure. Eric asked that you please, when you get up or move around, try to walk in front of the camera as much as possible. That'll make him very happy. Oh, I'm sorry. I got that backwards. Please don't walk in front of the camera. Don't do that because Eric gets very upset by that. Okay, that sounds good? Okay. We want to welcome any visiting folks tonight. Who's visiting? Stand up, please, if you're visiting tonight. Please stand up. Wow, good crowd. Wow, all right, welcome. As I say every month, it's very expensive to join the club. It's $30 a year. So if you'd like to join, you're more than welcome to. Of course, we always invite guests to come whether you're a member or not, so we want to keep that wide open. And if you do decide to join during the break, we have a 20-minute break halfway through, you will get a ticket to be part of the drawing. And we tonight have 10 prizes, 10 door prizes, and I tried talking Sonny into the last prize, the final prize being his Maserati, but he said no. He didn't want to do that. So we've got 10 door prizes tonight. We usually range between 10 and 12 prizes every meeting, which is really kind of cool. It's a lot of fun. So if you do decide to join, you will be part of the drawing, and it's $30 a year, and that benefits you for any of the programs that we have during the year. I think, what would you say, about 6 that we have, Sonny? Would you say there's 6 different presentations during the year? And those will run you $30 each, but if you're a member here, they're free. So that's a pretty good deal. So you can really beat the numbers by joining. And again, welcome, welcome. So we want to recognize our volunteers tonight. Probably half the room is a volunteer, so please stand up if you're a volunteer. We've got plenty of them. Thank you. You know, we couldn't do this without all the volunteers, that's for sure. And we probably have another 30 or 40% more volunteers that are gone for the summer. So as we get into the season, I'm thinking we might need a bigger room when we get into the season this fall. Are we over 400 members now, Sonny? 380 members. Isn't that wonderful for a club that Sonny started a few years back? You know, if it weren't for Sonny Saunders and Bill Coakley and Betty Saunders, I just wonder sometimes how much this club would have grown without those dedicated individuals that have been so dedicated to what they're doing for this club. So thank you, Sonny. Thank you for all that you've done, and thank you to Bill Coakley. Reports of the committees. No reports. No, I'm kidding. Do we have any reports of the committees? Anybody? We do. All right. Do you want me to come to you, or do you want to come up? Okay. And please try to walk in front of the camera when you're coming up, okay? You make Eric very happy. Here we go.
Thanks, Marcel. Okay. First of all, I want to thank everybody for... Can you get that? There you go. Can you move to the next one? For participating in our outing last month. It was our time-lapse one. And if I can get... Nope. No, you need to go back. Yeah. Back arrow. I'm good. Yep, now you missed. There you go. We have a video. So we did our time lapse, and this is. Get it to play? No? Oh, there. There it goes. So there's the time lapse from the pier. This was 903 photographs. And so there were a number of us. I've talked to a few, and everybody's results look pretty good. So the sunset looked like it wasn't going to be very good, but it turned out to be just super, super spectacular. So a good time was had by all. Yeah. And I cut Rosie out. She was kind of in the frame too. That's why the clouds jumped in one picture. You can see the moon and Venus there. Yeah. Okay. So this month we're doing Botanical Garden on Tuesday morning. So if you meet in front of the garden entrance at 7:45, we'll take some flower pictures, maybe some bird pictures while we're there. Christine's an expert. What should we look for? Lots of flowers.
Flowers. There's a lot of flowers.
That's why it's a botanical garden. All right. And then in September, and since this happens before our next September meeting, this is an outing we tried to schedule last year, but Irma wiped out the pier. And so Larry's going to be the leader on this. I'm going to be assisting him. There's a handout on each table, and then there's sign-ups. And so we really need you just sign up if you can. We need, it would be great to have 30 people, so we only had 11 for the time-lapse deal. So we really need some participation. We'll be broken up into 2 teams. So one team will be up on the pier, light painting, like Naples or whatever, and the other team will be photographing, and then we'll switch places. So it should be a lot of fun, and that is September the 5th, which is a Wednesday. So if you can, sign up. That's it.
Thank you. Who's next? Oh, by the way, while she's coming up, please take copious notes. There'll be a test after the meeting tonight. And when we finish up this evening, please put the strings back inside the little plastic pouch. Otherwise, I get in big trouble if you don't do that.
Just real quick, for the F3C print competition, I will be picking up the prints at next month's meeting. And if anybody has prints they haven't picked up, they're in the back of the room. Thank you.
What size are the prints to be for the F3C when you do the prints? Is it any size, or are there specifics?
The print can be any size, the backing has to be 16 by 20.
Backing is 16 by 20, as long as the
It cannot
print...
be a window, and it has to be...
Not too thick.
Not too thick, right.
It's all on
Okay.
the website.
16 by 20, not too thick. Check the website out. Okay? Anybody else? No, nobody else? Okay. What about the after the meeting party tonight? How many people do we have going? How many people are going? Raise your hand if you're going to the after the meeting party tonight.
2, 3, 4.
Don't be shy. It's a great party.
6 to 8 people. There we go.
All right, we'll make a reservation for that. Okay? Public announcements and members in the news. Who's got a public announcement? Probably Joe Fitzpatrick does. Anybody else? Joe, you want to come on up, make a public announcement? Come on, Joe. We'll put you on camera.
I won't be under the loudspeaker now, I will be able to hear it.
Fitzpatrick with Understand Photography here in Naples. A couple of things too. I'm getting waved over here. What, am I blocking things there, Eric? Okay. All right, a couple of things are online courses, which a lot of you have. The ones that don't, they're on our summer sale. The prices and all, there's information on the table. It's a good time to take advantage of that. Those classes are done in short videos, so instead of trying to swallow the subject matter in one big lump, you get these 3 to 5 minute videos that you can take, and you can take them at your own pace. So it's a very good way to learn Photoshop, Lightroom, and Elements. We have a Cuba trip, a ladies only Cuba trip. Will be taking place February 2nd to the 9th of 2019. We're accepting sign-ups for that now. That'll be a small trip of 6 to 10 people, ladies only, so you guys are out of luck. I'll probably do one the following year though. Our workshops are now, for the coming season, for the 2019 season, are all on the website. The last thing, some of you, or most of you, I think, are familiar with our Understand Photography show that we do live on Facebook every Friday at 4. This week will be our 100th episode. We've done 100 continuous shows. The first show featured Artie Morris, and he's back for our 100th show. This show will be a little different. You'll be able to ask questions on our Facebook page, and Artie will be giving answers to them throughout the show, in addition to doing the usual Artie stuff and telling us a little bit about things. And it'll be a great show. We have a whole new set that we've done for it. We'll have a time lapse of us building the set that will be shown on Facebook tomorrow morning, so you can get an idea of what's coming up. But that show is 4 p.m. tomorrow. It's going to be a great show. I hope you'll be able to like it.
Thank you, Joe. Who else? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Mike Schreider, and I am a volunteer in the group, and I am running the Lightroom user group meeting. We moved locations. We have, Sonny was nice enough to allow us to use his studio, and because of popular demand, at least I'd like to think so, we're outgrowing the space very quickly, and the club is looking for a larger space. But what we're going to be doing, or I am, is starting in October, I will be having back-to-back sessions so that we can have twice as many people come to the meeting. And I wanted to let you know, one, it's in a different venue, and that will start in October. And I'll be splitting the session up so that the earlier session is for the newer learners of Lightroom, and the more experienced people hopefully can come to the other session, which starts at 6 o'clock. So they'll be back-to-back, 4 to 6 and 6 to 8. Fourth Thursday of every month. Be looking for the notices when you get them in the email, so you'll know. Thank you.
All right, next. Who's next? Anybody? Come on up.
Now, this is just a reminder to everybody that coming up this weekend, we have the Perseid meteor shower. Now, if you haven't gone out to see it, this is going to be a good one because this time we don't have a moon to contend with. The new moon is on the 13th, and you can actually start looking for them in about the 10th and 11th, but from the 11th to the 13th, we should see the greatest number. So just a reminder to look up starting around midnight and all the way to dawn.
What part of the sky?
The northeast is where the Geminids are, or I'm sorry, the Perseids are going to be, look for the constellation Perseus, and they're going to, that's what we call the starting point where everything originates, and from that point, then they flare across the sky. As it gets toward dawn, and one thing I found, at least from the Geminids, early in the morning, if you're looking to the west, you can often see them dropping down. It almost looks like they're going into the Gulf of Mexico. So just something to remind you that this weekend, look up.
All right. Hunt's has a special club discount, and it's posted on the wall over there, so during the break you might want to take a look at that. And Seth Resnick's presentation, Scene Color and Enhancing Creativity, will be on Saturday the 25th. There are some brochures on the tables, and that's part of what I was talking about, where we get 6 of those presentations each year. I've never been to a bad one. They're all extremely interesting. I presume this will be from 9 till noon. That's pretty typical, 9 till noon, 25th Saturday, so you don't want to miss that. Those are great. We need volunteers for a social committee. You should see Sonny or Betty during the break or after the meeting. So if you're interested in becoming a volunteer for the social committee, please see Sonny or Betty. And Sonny, I think you wanted to announce our newest user group, is that right? Starting on Monday, September 3rd.
Thank you. I'm pleased to announce that we're going to have a new users group or workshop to add to the DPI SIG list of members' benefits. Dennis Weissman, Dennis, stand up so everybody, there you are, Dennis, has volunteered to lead a smartphone photography users group, which will meet on the first Monday of every month. The meeting will be held on Monday, September the 3rd, the first meeting, September the 3rd. It happens to be Labor Day, at 6 p.m. at 5029 Tamiami Trail East. That's the same location as our roundtable and the same location as the new location for the Lightroom user group. Watch for an invitational email and an announcement in the meeting newsletter. Space is limited, so you'll have to respond to the email when you get it. But I think this makes the 9th or 8th workshop we have.
Great, thanks, Sonny. Anybody else? We've got new club brochures on the tables, so please feel free to take 1 or 2 or 3, whatever's necessary, and try to encourage somebody to join the club. So these are brand new club brochures that you'll see out there. Anything else? We're right on time. My goodness gracious, we're doing quite well tonight. Okay, and now I guess then if we don't have any other announcements, we'll move on to our members in the news. Nancy Springer. Nest building lovers, this is an end of the year competition. By the way, you can go tomorrow. It's tomorrow from 5:30 to 7:30, and this is the Von Liebig. And I think, Joe, I'm not sure who's in charge of this one, but Nancy Springer is going to be there. And Art, are you in charge of the Von Liebig? Okay, I thought maybe you were. Wasn't sure. Okay, so nest building lovers will be shown in the Your Choice exhibit at the Von Liebig tomorrow. The reception will be held tomorrow from 5:30 to 7:30, so you want to come out and vote for that. Beautiful photograph, by the way, huh? Spectacular. Hilda Champion. Boy, there's a really spectacular shot, huh? Sheikh Zaid Mosque. Is that how you pronounce that? Did I say that right? I hope I said it right. Selected for the show, Grayscale, Portland, Oregon. Beautiful, beautiful. Congratulations. All right, so we're ready to move on to our critique panel, and we're right on time. Amazing how we do that, just amazing.
I'm Christine Cook, and I'm the director of the DPI SIG Women's Workshop that meets once a month, and we invite all members to come and see what we're all about. We regularly do critiques in the Women's Workshop, and we did one with this panel a few months ago, and it was so received that I thought that we should share them with DPI SIG, with all members. And we did one last year also, so this is kind of becoming a little habit, I think. We'll have different critiquers when we do it. And different photos, of course. So we did ask you for photos. We did get a sufficient number of photos. And today we have Karen Lund, Cynthia Taft, and Ross Hubbard, whom many of you know. And they have all gone through the judges training course and completed it with rave reviews. And now they're certified in both the state, the F3C certification, and DPI SIG as well. But in addition to that, in their own right, they are very keen observers and eloquent critiquers. And I'm really, really puffing you up, I know. And wonderful photographers in their own right, with their own particular strengths and areas that they love to focus on. So what we'll do is we'll show an image, and it's all anonymous. And we'll start at one end or the other. You decide where you want to start. We'll have a starter judge. And she will make a critique which includes comments about the strengths of the image, as well as comments that will help the maker develop some ideas to improve the image, either in camera or in post-processing, because that is why people submit their images, to get feedback. So we are going to give feedback. And then when Karen is done, we'll move on to see if anyone else on the panel has anything to add. If not, then we'll go to the next image and Cynthia will begin. Any questions? Okay. We're going to start with...
When does the workshop meet?
The first Thursday of every month.
Except September.
Except September of this year. Okay, my thing isn't working, so I'm going to be here. Okay, we're going to start with a few monochromes that we got. I just thought it would be interesting to put them together so we can talk about monochrome. And we want to encourage people, too, to submit more in monochrome. I was speaking with Richard Tyndall, who is the director of the competition committee for DPI SIG, and I'm the director of the digital competition for the state, and we really could see more monochromes coming our way. We really want to encourage people from DPI SIG to develop them. Does it work? Oh, thank you. Tom is our technical expertise, and he tells me when I need to turn things on and plug things in. So I'm very happy about that. There you go. This is our first image.
This, to me, is a very well done black and white image. You have very nice leading lines that bring you right up to the lighthouse. You have people there, so you can see the difference in size of the lighthouse and the area surrounding it. The clouds were done very nicely. They have lots of pop, beautiful. Beautiful clouds in the area of, I'm trying to think of the word and I can't think of the word. At any rate, it's lots of detail in the clouds. The horizon looks a little bit like it might be a little off, going up on the right-hand side. But other than that, it's a beautiful image, well done. The contrasts are very nice, just a well done image.
Great, I agree, and completely. I think it's a really nice one to start with as a black and white because it's a great example of where I don't think the color version of this would have had anywhere near the impact or the power. It probably would be a blue sky, white clouds, kind of a postcard, although the detail would still be there in the foreground. I really like the way the foreground leads you and all that beautiful design and lines and it just leads you in. It makes the whole picture more grand and really adds to the impact of the contrast with the softness, in the sky. Is really nice in comparison to that, but and of course the scale issue with the people. But it's just a really wonderful black and white image.
Yeah, Cynthia, move the microphone closer to your face.
Thank you.
Or your face closer to the microphone.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would actually concur with everything said here. There are a couple of things I would note. The strong lines that we have in the rocks really bring attention to detail, and that leads us right up to the people. I think without the people, this image would be a static image. The people really do make this shot. On a technical side, it appears as though the lower clouds might have a little loss of detail. The highlights might be slightly blown out. Just something to check. Other than that, I like the image. I think it's put together well and very successful.
Great.
Of course.
What is your question?
My question would be, what would happen if the foreground was cropped some and two of the people on the right were eliminated? You don't need all that number of people to get the size, and I find it too distracting because of separate people. That's what I would have done if it was my picture. If I did, what would you think then?
I actually like the isolation and the fact that people aren't all in one group, and it kind of adds a little. I think everyone's having their picture taken. I don't know. I just think it kind of works. Yeah, it works. It works. Thank you. It works for me anyway to have that person sort of alone out there on that rock. I think you can certainly crop some of the foreground and bring the whole thing in a little bit closer. What do you think?
Well, one of the things I thought of initially was that the square format might be confining this image just a little, that I would actually like to have seen a little bit more on the right-hand side, a little more water, just because I think it just feels a little close. But aside from that, I think most of the time when we look at these images, we think of landscapes, which are typically not a square format. I think that's part of what our eyes get used to. And that's a matter of personal choice.
Kind of caught me off guard. It didn't happen before.
So I'll start on this one. Tell me if I'm loud enough. I really like I think it's effective to have the flower in the center with the contrast between the beautiful warm whites, the grays, and that being in contrast to what is completely a black background. Your eye goes partly because of, mostly because of the light in the middle of the flower, but also that little leading line from the leaf helps bring you in. But once you're there, you know, you really focus in on all the beautiful detail, the softness, the moisture droplets, and all of that. And the only thing that I kept finding when I was looking at this image that I wanted to zoom in a little bit more. I wanted to see more of this beautiful flower and what's going on with what looks like a beautiful rendition of it in focus. So that was my recommendation would be to keep the same center placement, but I would bring it in just a bit to get a little more focus. And then the last thing is, I love dark backgrounds, but I find, this is a preference, but I find that if you have a little bit of the context of this flower's life, where it is, you can still keep it really black and dark. It'll add a little mystery to what's going on behind it. Might allow you to not even crop it, actually. But I feel like that would have added a little bit of interest.
Yeah, I concur exactly. My first thought was the light is so beautiful and it's so well illuminated that I really want to see more, and the only way to do it is to zoom in. So for me, the real failing here is just not having it close enough. If it's possible to go back and create this where you have an image that is closer to the viewer, I think you're going to be a lot more successful. I don't mind the placement. Center placement here, it works. And the context with the background is a great thought, but get it closer and I think you'll have a more effective image.
I would have cropped it.
Well, that's,
Is that
whether you crop or whether you enlarge is the same.
I would have cropped that almost to the petals. And because it enlarges the flower, and it does show off that detail. The detail is just gorgeous in this image, just gorgeous. And a well done black and white.
I like it the way it is. And I think one of the things we do want to hear too are disagreements, because these are personal decisions, but there are also some standards. I love the mystery of this flower. That's what I love about it, that it's far away. I never would have thought to do that, and it's surrounded by black. So that's just a different way to look at it, and it depends on who's judging that day, right?
Well, and the other thing too is it's all about personal preference. And that's what you have to understand about everything we say. It's personal preference, and you may disagree, and that's awesome.
And it works different ways.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go on this one. This actually was one of my favorites. I love the way my eye moves through this scene. It works perfectly in black and white because there's an accentuation of the lines, and the lines are so well contrasted with the dark, mysterious spaces that it just pops. And the addition of that spotting scope adds a little bit of mystery. And that's, you know, I suppose you could say, well, the only thing missing is looking for the person looking for that scope. But in that regard, I don't need a person because I know that there's an intended use there. We get an idea that this is an overlook, and having the river come to the falls in the background is just brilliantly composed. I really can't say I find any fault with it the way it is done here.
I agree 100%. I love the drama in the background. I love the backdrop of the water. It set everything up, and you have a building that's just sitting there, just glorifying in that waterfall. It's just beautiful. Very well done.
Yeah, I really like the perspective of looking down onto this building, and then as Ross said, then your eye, leads right through and up, and then of course the total contrast between the sharp lines and the diagonal lines of the building, and then the beautifully way they rendered the soft water is, it takes a lot of technique to do that well, and they really executed, well on that. At first I was wondering about the very top of the photo and whether it's a little bit, could have been cropped a little bit, but the problem with that, and this is one of the things you always find when you crop, is that it would put that center horizontal line of the roof really dividing the photo into an upper and a lower, too much in the middle. So I think it's great the way it is.
Thank you.
The old Naples train station. This is a well-done black and white also. There's a lot of interest in this image. You have good shadow detail. You have a caboose at the very end on the right-hand side that leads you to the building, or it adds interest to the building. There's nice clouds. There's not a lot of people, so you're really showing off the building and what it does. If I could change one thing, and this is personal preference, it would be to darken the sky just a little bit, to set off the building somewhat. But that's about it.
Yeah, and now I like the fact that normally this building is portrayed more as a historic, a heritage site, and you think of it being sort of an older time. And I love the way the photographer made it look really modern and bold, and with great diagonals, great perspective, and it just sort of transformed what we see all the time into a completely different kind of look. And I was thinking, though, if you didn't live in Naples, though, you probably wouldn't know what this was, and you might not know that it was a caboose, but we all know it, so it's really an effective perspective and contrast.
Yeah, I agree with everything, especially the darkening the sky slightly to create a little bit more contrast. But the one thing that the photographer did very well here was utilize the time of day to advantage. And the advantage by shooting with the light being higher is it bounces light inside the structure, giving you the kind of light you really want to have, that you're not going to get when you're at later or earlier times of the day. So I think the lighting choice, the time of day was perfect for this. The leading lines bring it right, my eye goes right to that closest part of the corner, and from there it can diverge right or it can diverge left. It also moves up, the verticals take me up to the diagonal roof line and then back down to the caboose. It all moves back and forth. My eye really doesn't stop moving around the scene, so very well done.
Thank you.
I think the sepia color that they've used in this monochrome is really effective for a scene that is clearly ancient, or really portraying an ancient scene, and I think it really adds to that impact and the mood that's created by it. I also think they've done a nice job of having the diagonal lead you, down the photo toward the interesting building. It seems a little bit crooked, but that might have been intentional. And so I think and then the detail in the foreground is a really nice. It brings you in the layers in this photo, so you're really continuing to go through it as you go from the foreground to that faraway background. The only thing that bothered me a little bit was the lightest part of this photo is the clouds, and my eye went there, and they're kind of a little bit of an odd shape, so I got sort of hung up looking at the clouds in that way, and just wondered whether darkening them a little bit or doing something to not have them so prominent might help. You really want to focus on the middle and the foreground in this image.
When I look at this image, it's kind of a tale of two contrasts. If you take the image and divide it from the upper left corner to the right corner, on the dividing line above, you have mostly a pastel-like appearance, and then on the bottom you have a very coarse-looking appearance. It's quite a stark contrast. And it's interesting, but I think I would have lightened the shadows a little bit, like underneath the arch. The side of the cliff is just a little dense, and there is an odd line, bright line, that's almost like a halo on the right vertical of the building that bothers me a little bit. I think that makes it look a little unnatural for the scene. And I probably would have, even though this could have been the case, I probably would have straightened the image so that the verticals of the building are straight, because I think that's probably closer to the way it really was. But the image is neat. It evokes memories of when I went to Europe, went to Italy, so I enjoyed looking at it.
Well, I agree with everything that Cynthia and Ross said. I'd like to add one little point, and that is the tree in the upper left. I like the aspect of having a little bit of nature in that image to tone down the harshness of the building. And it just brings everything together for me.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll start. I love the close crop and the vertical orientation of this image. It's so wonderful to be that close. It's so beautifully rendered with the soft detail of the fur and the face and everything that you feel like you want to touch the softness of this wonderful animal. So I really like the way they got in close. And the only comment that I was going to make was, I love it when you're seeing a side view of a portrait, that sometimes the negative space that outlines the face, in this case a very interesting face, and the lines are very interesting. I think if that background were a little bit darker, you might see that negative space and focus more right in on the wonderful chimp.
Yeah, I pretty much agree that I would say that there are two little specks that are in front of the chin and I think on the fur that I would probably have gotten rid of, just because bright specks tend to attract attention. But aside from that, it's a very, yes, there's the pointer. Good. Don't overdo it? Okay. I've never even. Okay, right there and right there. So other than that, I like the portrait. It's very soft and it's very pleasing.
I agree with everything they both said. I don't know if this bothers anyone else, but it kind of bothers me, and that is the green coming from the mouth. The green line.
The background, yeah.
To the background, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a real easy way of getting rid of that when you clone. And so you wouldn't get rid of the whiskers or anything. So that might be something that the maker would like to think about.
Or just darkening. Yeah, I'm getting rid of it and darkening a little bit. Yeah.
I also like the fact that the background kind of mimics the face of the monkey. If you look, you can see the eyes back there, and you can see the chin, and I enjoyed seeing that too.
That's great. Yeah.
Use the pointer to show that, Karen.
Well, that wasn't it.
Let's just forget about it. Yeah, actually, it's an interesting shot now, isn't it?
Oh, I see. Okay. This area, right in here, you can see the eyes, and you can see
The prominent forehead.
and the prominent forehead, yes.
That's great.
You could also desaturate that green.
Yeah.
and that wouldn't.
Yes.
You can try any number of different things.
Okay, I'm gonna move on. We're gonna have to move a little faster probably.
Well, I'll take the lead on this one. I like the concept of wide angle. The purpose here, I think, was to get a nearly mirrored left and right side, which was pretty close to being successful. The only thing that really bothers me about this is the color cast that I'm seeing on the walls. And it's just the mixing of light, that's all it is. And so I thought about, okay, well, how would I correct it if I had taken a shot? And I would probably turn this into a black and white that accentuates the lines, which, you know, with the leading lines, think about it, all lead to the stained glass. Well, the stained glass, I would leave in color with the rest black and white, just because it's a beautiful stained glass and it eliminates the problem of having a color cast that draws attention to that left side. I like the image, I like the composition, and like how the lines bring the attention right to that stained glass.
I agree with Ross about the black and white. I'm not quite sure about the stained glass, leaving the color in the stained glass. I think you could probably do it a couple of different ways. You could do it with a black and white and a color and
You could do it 1,000 different
shows,
ways.
yeah, which one shows is more,
Exactly.
you
You
know,
can play around with it.
yeah, you could play around with it. And I do like the leading lines and coming from the top and the bottom of the image. So that's nice.
One idea I wondered about, if it was possible to get more light coming through that stained glass window. Most churches, when you're inside, the light is really coming in, and I think you could enhance that. It's hard when there's no white in it, but I think you could enhance that to get a little more of a glow. Maybe put it in topaz. But it just seemed like it was a little bit flat, and I think it's the most beautiful part of the photo, and I think if we could make it glow a little bit, it would add a little mystery, a little bit of church spirituality to it, and I really think that, and I even wonder whether cropping a little bit to bring I mean, I'm curious what the design is of that stained glass and what's going on in it, and I can't really see it, so I think if you could get a little bit closer to it, might eliminate the walls on the sides and really get in closer to that.
Just an additional note, it's likely that this was done with HDR, high dynamic range, which for folks who aren't familiar, it's just bracketing 3, 5, 7 images at different exposures, and sometimes you get results and artifacts like that on the wall. So it's just a cautionary tale. Yeah, we're going to move on.
It's a beautiful seascape, nice and soft. The colors are muted. The rocks have a lot of definition in them. The clouds may or may not have more. If it were my image, I would probably try to get more out of the clouds.
A little more contrast?
A little more depth. A little more contrast and depth, yes. The horizon on this is a little bit uphill on the right-hand side, so that might have to be fixed. But your leading lines are the water right down here in the front coming from the left-hand side, and that brings you to the rest of the image. And I really like that. I think it was taken at the exact right moment.
Yeah, I also thought, though, that the perspective of being really low down and feeling like you're almost sitting on that beach and enjoying this really tranquil, I mean, the impact is calm and tranquil because of the colors being so muted and so beautiful and not a lot of contrast. Thought that was very effective. And, you know, often when there's leading lines on the right, so when often you have leading lines, you think you're going to end up really focusing on those rocks. But I think the whole impact comes from the light from the right and the way it's reflected in the water and the sky, vice versa. It just seems to me that's really the impact in this photo.
For me, the leading line comes from the bottom right-hand corner, and when you look at this image, down here, the eye sweeps right up here, comes back over, and starts anew. So the eye is going around like this, and yet these lines are leading the eye back up into the scene. Now, one thing that can be done to further accentuate this would be to put a very subtle, and I do emphasize the word subtle, vignette on the image, and to possibly, oh, shit, that's the wrong one, and to possibly lighten this just a hair, because again, you're leading the eye through here, and if you are darkening these areas even slightly, then what you're doing is you're pulling the eye back into the scene, you're keeping it in there. Lovely image, just really beautiful.
Thank you.
I wish I looked like that.
You too.
I do?
Yeah. Need some curl in your hair. I guess I could start. I love the portrait, and I love the way it's cropped so that you really focus, right in on her. The softness, the way this is rendered with this beautiful softness and the light on her face, in contrast to the wonderful hair, which is completely different texture, and it really adds to frame, what is the main subject here. And it's a little mysterious. I mean, she's listening to a shell, but you're wondering what she's thinking about. So there adds mystery, the way that she's, her gesture. And it's beautifully rendered in terms of being in focus, everywhere on the person. And the only question I had, the background isn't distracting, but it isn't really supporting either. It'd be nice if it wasn't so predominant.
I think for this image, its greatest success lies in the quality of light and how that light was directed to the face. I didn't want her, as opposed to looking more up at her. And whenever we look slightly down on someone, it does not empower them as much as looking up at them. But at the same time, I also realized if you did that, then you're going to get more of the background. And so I thought, well, it's a nice quality of light. And she probably is kneeling. I would not be surprised. But the quality of light here is absolutely gorgeous.
Karen, did you? Okay.
Yes.
I agree with everyone 100% with the lighting and stuff. The catch light in the eye really is beautiful also. Yeah. This is a bright in-your-face flower, and it's beautifully done, sharp. It has a lot of color. I'm looking for a leading line, and I could probably use the petals, but I really don't want to. I would say the diagonal is probably the only leading line that you're going to see in this image. I don't know the diagonal going from the upper left to the lower right.
The leaves.
The leaves.
The green leaves. The green leaves, all the way up.
All the way up and all the way down.
This.
Yes. And there's a shadow of a leaf down towards the bottom of the right-hand side there also. I don't know what I would change if I were to change anything here. I think it looks fine the way it is. The only other thing that you might be able to do would be crop in and get the inside of the flower more prominently. But I think the only thing that I see that's distracting in this image is probably those leaves at the upper right-hand side, or the upper side towards the right, and the middle of the right there also. But otherwise, I think the maker did a fine job on this image.
In the interest of time, I'm going to move to the next image. I think that was a pretty complete, so we may be relying on you to do, one each at this point, because we're amazing how we're.
Okay, great photo of the Palouse. Your eye goes right to, because it's the lightest part, to the farmhouse, but then you really enjoy going from the foreground, many layers in this photo, from the foreground with the beautiful detail and the warm colors in the foreground, the leading line of the pinkish color leading you up through the photo to the farmhouse, and that's a center piece. But then the light begins to change and the color goes a little more cool, and you begin to follow around all those beautiful hills, lines, the design of the Palouse and the way they've captured it. It's one of those photos that grabs you in the foreground and really keeps moving the eye in very sort of a lyrical way around this beautiful scene. It's very soft and the impact is very warm.
Is there anything about it that anyone would suggest a change? I'm going to move it.
Well, I'll start. This is an eye popper. It's just very, very big on detail. It's in your face. I like that. The color contrasts are gorgeous. The water detail of the droplets.
And they're moving,
the lines.
so they're not just sitting there.
Oh yeah.
They're moving.
I mean, this has sweeping lines. The lines that come up, make sure I don't push the wrong one. The lines that come up here come right in here, and this drapes down, pulling the eye back in. And of course you have this diagonal and everything pulls right into here. The only distraction for me are these out of focus petals right here. And because they're so close to this flower, that is a bit of a distraction. But that is about the only thing I can find that I don't care as much for. The image is beautiful.
It's a trade-off because they wanted to get close, so
Yeah.
they got the blurry foreground.
And the only way you're really going to overcome that is you're going to have to take a couple of exposures and stack the focus where you get that and it's sharp. And if you do that, then you might have something that's even better.
Thank you.
This looks like a very creative image. Yeah. The title of this one was actually
9/11.
9/11.
Remembered.
9/11 remembered.
It's not always important, but this one I think it is important.
And I guess I'm going to make the assumption that that's a plane up at the top. It was really hard for me to discern what everything was, and that's human distraction, because not everybody needs to know what everything is. But in this case, I kind of did, so that it would give me some perspective of what they were trying to show the onlooker. The colors are perfect. They meld in, they blend, it looks like a building with windows. It's a little bit of an abstract, so I kind of like that also. You can see the clouds in the sky. The only thing that I was a little bit not understanding was if that really was a plane up at the very top of the image. Is that what you were?
I think it was. I wanted to make one other comment. I've been to the 9/11, many of you I'm sure have, to the 9/11 memorial, and the one major artwork that they commissioned focused on the blue sky and the irony of that day. The blue sky was very predominant in this artwork, and I think the photographer may have been bringing that into this image as well, that the irony, the contrast between what a beautiful blue sky it was that day and then what happened with this building. And the last thing I wanted to mention was that I think this might be like a reflect. In New York, of course, you see a lot of tall buildings reflected in other glass buildings, and I think this might have been saying that, you know, this building fell, and it's not a tall building, but it was reflected as part of the New York, it's part of New York.
Yeah, I will just add that I thought it was well done. This image is well done graphically in a creative sense. It shows balance and good color contrast, good composition. Okay.
I'm gonna move.
Oh, we don't get to talk about
Let's
the front?
see. I'm gonna move to this one. because I think we really only have time for one more, if that. We're ceiling time now. So this will be the last one.
Can we each comment quickly? I really loved the way this flower is placed in the frame, standing up proud and tall, and then often when you're taking a flower, you want to shoot it down into the center and make sure you try to see the center of the flower, but this is a wonderful way to add mystery, but still you feel like you're looking through into the middle of that flower. And it's so translucent, it's so warm, it's like a beacon of light that they've been able to create, and I think it's just an interesting way to make you feel like you're seeing the inside of that flower without actually seeing the inside of the flower. And then the background, I think, it works with it.
Yeah, I would agree. The translucence, the glow, the positioning of the flower, and the fact that the background gives it context, but it has a nice textural, soft quality that really helps to set it off.
I don't have anything to add for this. I think it's a beautiful image.
Well, we can have some lights, and thank you very much, esteemed panel. We have more images, and I think what I'm going to do is ask Richard to perhaps use them in a future critique, so that we're not, but hopefully we got at least one image from every person who contributed, and we keep saying when we do this we're going to do it faster so we can get through more images, but then we have so much to say. So it's a balance and a dilemma. That's okay, you did beautifully. Thank you so much. You have to hold the button down for a period of time.
You've got to be very brave to submit your photographs, but it's all subjective. So for those of us that are new in the club, don't worry about getting involved, because all the photographs are beautiful no matter who took them, where they are, or what they are. Somebody's going to enjoy that photograph. For somebody's bliss of seeing a certain photograph, and another person will say, gee, I don't particularly care for it, but that doesn't make it a bad photograph at all. So you got to be brave to submit those pictures. You notice I didn't submit anything tonight. So anyway, well, they didn't give any names. So we've got plenty for sale over here on the far side of the room, so you want to check that out during the break. And there's some very good values over there, and it looks like quite a bit of merchandise for sale. So we're going to take our quick break. We'll meet back at 20 minutes after. Thank you. You're going to enjoy this. This is something quite different. And then following Christine's presentation, we will have our themed slideshow. So, all right, I got them all excited for you, Christine. You ready? She's ready. Here we go.
Thank you, Marcel. Okay, so I have a quick 15 minutes, so I'm going to start right in, and Sunny's putting the lights off. This is, instead of a travel presentation, well, this is kind of a travel presentation. I traveled into the world of teaching young children about photography and Photoshop. Oh my word, did I have a very steep learning curve. Even though I've taught children for ages and taught photography to adults, putting the two together was a whole different thing. Did a lot of research, watched people who've done it before, like Richard himself. And Richard and I both taught, 5 weeks of Photoshop and photography at the Naples Art Association, the Von Liebig Center, and we had our ups and downs, and I'll tell you about that. We had 6 to 14-year-olds in 3 different age groups, so we didn't have the 6 to 14-year-olds in one. We had like 6 to 9, and then 9 to 12, and then 11 to 14, something crazy like that. But mostly I had young ones, and these are the ones that taught me what I needed to know. So, first of all, young children, they're emotional, they have tons of energy, they have short attention span and tons of energy, which is really tricky, and they definitely, I came to the conclusion that they need structure, and that's what they were going to get. And so, I would do things like gather them all together and have their heads down on the table, chilling out, and getting ready to get the giggles out. We kept saying that, get the giggles out, leave the giggles outside. And then before they went to their computer, they had to tell me what their plan was, which is very cool. Do you know 5-year-olds can tell you what their plan is? And you're going to go to my computer, and then they just tell you what they're going to do. They review what you did, and then when they get there, they remember, because they don't read directions very well. Well, neither do adults, right? But they definitely do everything from memory. And then we also alternated very hard work, because this was very hard work. I taught them Photoshop, you know, very hard work. We alternate that with play and games. But the upsides, oh, it's wonderful. They learned so fast, I couldn't believe it. I prepared one activity, I had to do 2 or 3 in a day. I worked my little took us off. And they're brave and self-deluded. They don't know what they don't know. And they're not afraid of anything. They're not afraid. They just, sure, they'll do it. And I'm thinking, oh boy, you have no idea what you've bitten off here, young man. But they will do it. And they can see tiny things. You know, when I was teaching Photoshop to adults, I always had this problem with looking at the icons and having people see what the icons were on their computer or on my projection, the little tiny arrows that give you the menu. These kids can see all that, which is unbelievable. Sometimes I have to ask them, what does that say? Where is the brush? And problem solvers, oh my God, they are so adorable, especially if you give them the chance. Now, like I said, emotional, we had a lot of emotions and tears. We had one child crying her little eyes out. Oh, it was so pathetic. Her brother had betrayed her. He had stolen her snack at break time. This is the worst thing he could have done, and she was just dying. And the kids came all around her and patted her on the back and told her all kinds of very helpful things, but this one little boy said to her, "Hey, don't worry, the only thing I like about my sister is when we roll around on the floor and fight." And she felt so much better, and that did it. That did it. She recovered, and she went on and learned Photoshop. Unbelievable. Wonderful problem solvers and gift givers. Oh, their little arms circling you from behind and laying their heads on you and telling you that, you know, that they love you and all of that. And I had one child look up to me very adoringly. It was just wonderful. I mean, I haven't had a young grandchild for a while, so this was wonderful. She's looking up, and she distracted me from my lesson. I kind of looked down and said, "Yes, is there something you want to say?" And she said, "Miss Cook, you remind me of a teacher I had that I really loved." I said, "Oh, that's wonderful." She said, "Yeah, but she had black hair and she was much, much younger." And I said, okay, I think it's my turn to talk now. And she said, "But she also had very smooth skin, no wrinkles." So they're very honest. You cannot stop them. And gift givers. One little girl made this for me. She had it all planned out. I don't even know how to point this. She gave this to me so proudly. She made this with her skills in Photoshop, and she was so proud of her abilities. She planned it all out. Take a picture of me holding a little dead dandelion in the park, and then put all these butterflies and flowers all around it. Give me a very colorful shirt. Change the color of my hair because they didn't like it white, obviously. And give me the big young lips that I used to have. I will treasure this always. So the way I started, there is an informational part of this presentation. The way I started is that I took a screenshot of Photoshop Elements 2018, which is a great program. I feel like changing from Photoshop CC to this because I like this program so much. And I took a screenshot of it with this fish in it, uncolored. And then I gave them each that screenshot on paper, and they colored it. And in that way, we made the link, because some of them had never heard of Photoshop. We made the link between coloring on a piece of paper, which little kids love to do, to coloring in Photoshop. And it was very, very easy for them. They went right over and used the paint bucket. And I also circled the important things like opening a picture, using the paint bucket, opacity. big word, they could handle big words. They couldn't say them, but they understood it when I said it. And the all-important undo button. The undo button in Photoshop is Elements is unbelievable. You can undo about 1,000 times. And they were going, it's very cute. And then we used the color swatches here, and that just made it real easy. So can you imagine, I mean, teaching children from nothing to using Photoshop? It daunted me at first, but it really worked to do this. And then, isn't this beautiful? I love this. It's a turtle. You question? This is a turtle. And what we were doing here was we were getting their fine motor control up, because at the beginning they couldn't even hardly move the mouse. And they definitely couldn't use the pen on the tablet, some of them. So, so we did connect the dots, which is a fun activity for them. They like it anyway. And we did it on paper, and then we did it on the screen. And they made this is just an example of one of the kids' products. I put their letter to give them credit on the bottom, but of course I couldn't use their names or their pictures, pictures of them. And then we moved from paint bucket to brush to assorted brushes, all the many wonderful types of brushes that there are. And this particular program categorizes the brushes in a wonderful way. So they can find the special effects brushes, the painterly brushes, whatever. They're very easy to find. And they can produce something like this. And they also learned how to put a background on, which is very easy to do in this particular Photoshop Elements 2018. But then these are the pictures I really love the most. The ones where their artistic ability really comes through. But I needed to give them all that other prep to get them comfortable. And when we got to this, basically, I taught them color blending by lowering the opacity. And this is to 6, 7, 8-year-olds. And mixing the colors of greens and blues to get more of a green-blue, or yellow and red to get to orange, to get kind of different variations of the shade, and also using the different brushes. Now, the structure I gave them here is that I had them draw a line across the lower third and the upper third of the page, kind of the rule of thirds, only I didn't talk about that. And I just asked them to represent sand at the bottom, and the waves of the beach, and the ocean, and then the sky as a sunset. This belonged to little boy Jay, and look at the wonderful kind of distant waves he has on the top third, and the wonderful foaming beach waves that he has, the surf. He created surf. He created surf. He's only 7, and he created surf. I just think it's amazing. I was amazed every day. If I wasn't upset, that is, because something happened every day that was a challenge. Then we did easy composites. Now, teaching this class makes me think maybe I can teach adults again. I stopped because it was so frustrating, because adults take so long to learn any one thing compared to kids, right? But if I taught them this way, I wonder if we could really get much farther, you know? So on Pixabay, Pixabay.com, you can get free, non-copyrighted, royalty-free pictures. And I got some facial features that were already on transparency, so they're easy to move. And then I got some that weren't on transparency. So I made a transparency. I was so excited. This is something I didn't know how to do. And I do all these complicated composites, but I didn't know that all you have to do is select. So I basically selected the background first with the magic wand, and then inversed it so I select the eyes, right? And then you copy paste, you make a new layer, right? I'm going to do this real fast, so it's, you make a new layer, you select the eyes, you make a new layer, and then you delete the background. Isn't that amazing? Did you all know that? I didn't know that. I was absolutely flabbergasted. So then I had this wonderful thing where all they had to do to get it into their picture, after they learned how to make a blank page, was to put the cursor on the eyes, move the cursor up to the name of the blank file, which was usually untitled, keep your finger on the mouse and move it back to the blank page when it shows up, and pop, it's there. It's amazing, and it doesn't have any background that you have to worry about. I just amazed by the whole thing. I learned so much from these kids. So this was my demonstration piece, and it's interesting because they got very upset. Kids are, you don't know what's going to happen. You have to kind of bend and, They said, but Miss Cook, you don't have a mustache, and your mouth isn't like that, and you don't have funny eyes. That's spooky. So they started to get kind of freaked out about it. I thought, this is interesting. I guess I didn't expect that. So every time something like that unexpected happened, what I did was I stopped. We went to the table and we talked about it. I love to hear them talking. Just like I love to hear the panel talking about the critiquing. It's the same thing. I love to hear the ideas. And this was we ended up telling stories about changing and feeling different, and I mean, all kinds of issues came up for them. It was unbelievable. And this little fellow says, well, I have a story about a guy with a really big mustache, but he was just a tiny stick figure and everyone laughed at him, and so did he. Isn't that insightful? He laughed at himself. But one day he found a tiny stick girl figure with a big unibrow. Now how they knew about unibrows, I do not know, but they do know some things. And they fell in love and got married. And for better or for worse, they talk a lot about falling in love and getting married at this age. So they still have the dream. So anyway, it worked out some of the fears. And they came back and look what he did. Look what this little fella did. Now, he was a fellow surrounded by 7 girls, so he felt he had to make a statement. No, Miss Cook, I'm going to have 2 mustaches. I need 2 mustaches. I said, that's fine. And he chose not to use the ones that I had worked so hard to make the transparency, and that's fine, but see, that happens. And then I had a 10-year-old make this. Yes, wow, that's what I said. She didn't know it was a wow. It kind of happened accidentally, And I said, oh my God, this is an Andy Warhol. I mean, this is amazing. This is amazing, really. And she did that with the pre-drawn lips and eyes. And now, of course, I don't want her to use pre-drawn lips and eyes in clip art. I want them to do their own art. But this is a way to get them into it and to get them excited. And then we did some composites using them. So I had them acting out things that they wanted to make a picture of, and then assembling them into, and I have her grayed out because I don't want to show the little girl's identity. We had the horse against the transparent background, and we helped her to set herself on top of the horse and then erase the background using the eraser tool. So a lot of skill, but she was very motivated, and she put a wonderful background and a frame on it. And this is the scary boy cat. Then we did the type tool, and that opened up all kinds of new horizons. A lot of inventive spelling, except when they asked. But, so he wanted to be a cat, and he did a beautiful job. Then we did, what I was thinking of was a business card. But you can't really put children's identifying information on cards because of safety. So I worked it to be like, what do you love? Put your name, put your picture, and what do you love? And we all took each other's pictures. And then Jack O'Brien, whom many of you know is a curator at the Von Liebig, came through and he said, oh, you're making calling cards. And I thought I was dated. Calling cards. He said, sure, they can give it to their friends, so they could call later. I thought that was adorable. So we made calling cards / business cards, and they loved this. They absolutely loved this activity. And then you focus on what children love, and they love animals. They love animals, and they probably identify with animals. So we did a lot of, this one was a pet shop theme, and they spent a lot, you don't know what kids are going to spend a lot of time on. They spent a lot of time on naming the animals. I mean, they collaborated with each other, they came up with the cutest names, it was very, very cute. And then the prices. You know, they had a big discussion about, what a wonderful math activity this was, because they had a big discussion about how much you should charge and whether you should get 2 for the price of 1, or et cetera, or you should get more for the younger ones or for the older ones, or, I mean, it was just, it was fantastic. And since we were using the type tool, we made these wonderful pictures of cats, embedding the cats into the type tool. It's pretty sophisticated. This was the hardest one that I did, and I don't think I'll do it again because it was so hard for them. But it certainly came out beautiful, and we loved exposing them to it. And then we did some preset design formulas inspired by Rosie. Actually, I'll tell you why in a minute. This one I'm going to call swirl art. It is actually Tiny Planet. Isn't that something? This is the Tiny Planet formula. It's very, very simple. It's like 3 steps. And they get these wonderful changes and differences in there. So this is one that was a cartoon, you know, kind of a coloring page that they did. And then this is the one inspired by Rosie. We did twirl art. And this is why I have this white, what is this called anyway? White, it is a white box. Okay, this is wonderful. I borrowed it from our library, and this is incredible. I'm going to use it in the women's workshop too. I put a white sheet over the back, so the whole thing was white. I had it face the window so light came in, and they took 15, 20 minutes, and these are kids with no attention span, jumpy kids. I can't see the time anymore. Is it? I'm about out. Okay, so anyway, that's, let me just show you the last one. This is the twirl art. It's a formula. They had a ball with this, it's magic. My favorite activity is the last one. This was brilliant, and I just came upon it accidentally. We were given these frames, these miscellaneous frames, by actually one of our members who donated some stuff to the Von Liebig, and I happened to be there, so I grabbed them. So thank you, Dr. Jane, wherever you are. And we made silhouettes of the children that would be wonderful gifts for their families. And this is another thing that they showed fear. They said, I'm not black and white. You know, I can't see my eyes, but I don't understand. They've never looked at themselves in profile. They've never looked at themselves in profile. So this was a wonderful perspective activity, and we did shadow puppets with the projector and showed them that was all profile and they were dark, and then they went right into this and made these wonderful gifts for their parents, and that's all the time I have. So there you go.
Thank you, Christine. All right, now we're going to move into the theme slideshow.
Marcel, the show runs 20 minutes tonight. You still want to see it?
Yes, everybody want to see the theme slideshow? It runs 20 minutes. All right. Yes, definitely.
Lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop. Boom, boom, boom. Lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop.
There's so many songs about rainbows and what's on the other side. Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that and someone believed it. Look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell, we know that it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
Sweeter than candy on a stick, huckleberry, cherry, or la. If you had a choice, be your pick, but lollipop is mine. Lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop.
Boom, 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 boom.
Crazy way it thrills me, tell you why. Just like the lightning from the sky. He loves to kiss me till I can't see straight. Gee, my lollipop is great. I call him lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop.
Boom, 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 boom.
Lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, a lollipop.
Reflections, and if you forget, just look it up on our website. The next meeting is September 13th. We've got two new members tonight, Jay Schmidt and Martin Strasmore. Congratulations. Welcome to our club. All right, we'll have a quick drawing and we'll have you out of here in about 5 minutes. So I've got 9:03, so we're only 3 minutes over. 10 door prizes tonight. We're going to go through these really quickly. Thank you. All right, first one. 8800730. Do we have a winner? 8800-0730. Got one, okay. And next, 8800-795. 8800-795. Who's got 795? Somebody's got 795. No? All right. Okay, moving right along. 8800-784. 784. Who's got, hey, there we go. All right, we've got 2 winners. That gives us 8 more prizes. Okay. 8800-813. 813. Who's got 813? Raise your hand. Ah, there we go. 813. And next, 749. Who's got 749? 8800-749. Hey, there we go. All right, we've got 6 more prizes. 8800-817. 817. Who's the lucky winner? Got one over there. 817. All right, that's 5. 8800-794. 794. Hey, there we go. That's 6. 78. We need 2 more. 8800-745. 745. Anybody got 745? Okay, great, good. And 8800-779. 779. There we go. All right, we've got 2 more. I need 1 more. 8800-818. 818. Hey, there's a winner. This is the last and final one. 8800-755. See you next month. Thank you for coming. Bye.